Alright, so we got another leak for Mortal Kombat 12 from 4chan, and this time it's not from anonymous guys, it's from I'm a Real Man. So we can trust this one for sure. But the details about this leak are super cool, and I want to go over them with you and give my thoughts, so let's get to it. So starting off, the post is titled Mortal Kombat 12 Info by I'm a Real Man. He says, by the time Mortal Kombat 12 is released, it will have had a 3-year development cycle, 1-year conceptualization, 2 years full development, which I think sounds pretty reasonable given, video games, movies, sometimes it depends on the franchise. They can span 2, 3, even more years than that, so it doesn't seem too unreasonable. But the team have been working on utilizing an engine upgrade since the middle of development of Mortal Kombat 11 since 2018. This will be a heavily modified version of the Unreal 4 engine, which we had heard rumblings in other videos I talked about and even some past posts this year and last year that they were going to do some type of upgrades to the graphics slightly, but not, full blown. I believe we saw some Unreal 5 stuff in the new Matrix video game footage that they had or for the Matrix, so nothing like that, but enough to give it next gen and remind me of that fresh feel. It goes on to say, conceptualizing Mortal Kombat 12 started while making Mortal Kombat 11. They were always thought to be back-to-back games in terms of story, especially as it ties directly into endings as well as story DLC. Which I feel like this is something that we always thought, right? We had Mortal Kombat 9, and then we had Mortal Kombat 10 set the stage of a story, leading to Mortal Kombat 11, and then Mortal Kombat 12, right? So Shinnok, basically comes back and tries to take over, and he gets killed by the cages, and then we have Mortal Kombat 11 where his mother gets involved, now we killed his mom, and now we have basically her parents or family members or Titans coming in to get their revenge. So more of like a full, length trilogy, which I like and would really want to see. He goes on to say, this is information about the Krypt. The Krypt 4.0, as they are calling it internally, is everything that made 11 great and more. Fully explorable environments with portals that connect them, which is something I thought was really cool, giving that more open world feel. Think of different aesthetic levels in an old school video game. There are 3 main locations, the Living Forest in Outworld, the Wuxi Academy in Earthrealm, and Shinnok's Castle in Netherrealm. You can customize your nameless Krypt character in this mode. Lots of items for weapon customization too, as this Krypt actually has some combat. Killing enemies in certain numbers of enemies can reward you. There are also, of course, things to loot that cost in-game currency from chests, tree trunks, graves, and corpses. Sounds pretty fun, right? And gives you, more time and more gameplay, which is what they obviously want. Now, this next part is the part I was most excited about for this leak, so I hope you guys are too. It talks about the actual story and more fleshes out what we can expect to see. And this actually kind of builds on the last leak, or last couple leaks I've talked about. So goes on to say, the story involves Liu Kang having successfully restarted time using Kronika's hourglass and the 2 new Titans showing up for revenge for not just Kronika's death, but for the erasure of the Elder Gods as well, which is something I really didn't think about, when he's undoing the timeline. He not only killed, getting the revenge on Kronika, but he also basically undid everything, and that includes the Elder Gods probably. So Liu Kang has seated himself as an Elder God alongside of a lot of his friends, so he's made his own council, which I find really interesting. Kitana is now the goddess of life. Gotta have his boo next to him. Kung Lao is the god of compulsion. Raiden is still the god of thunder and lightning. Fujin is still the god of wind. Sindel is the goddess of wisdom. Interesting choice. Raicho is the god of intoxication. Yes, that's a real thing, and it's totally fitting. Kenshi is the god of knowledge, which I think is a good choice. And Nightwolf is the god of the hunt. Very interesting choice, but I think that's something very cool and interesting that I would love to see play out, to be honest. Game features 6 new characters, including the great Kung Lao. And then this next part is talking about kind of like it's interesting because the characters that they're about to list, it makes you kind of wonder if we're going to start seeing some, because the timeline has changed, different iterations of the same characters we're used to, just different genders, different ethnicities, maybe just different plays on the characters. So that's kind of what I got to feel for this. So the other 5 are a new Lin Kuei member under Sub-Zero, a black male, a new cyborg that is green, and a subordinate to Sector that utilizes poisonous gas. When I was kind of doing some research, there was actually a green cyborg, which I'm not familiar with one. There were, fan arts for a green cyborg reptile, and there was even like a fan art of one called Ballistic, which I thought would be a cool name for it. A new outworld creature that slightly resembles the Star Wars Jedi that looks kind of like a humanoid squid, which Tescus, I think is his name, which looks just like it sounds, basically a squid head on a humanoid body. And the new Titans who are the boss and sub-boss of the game. The Titan of Immortality, which is Ipetus, and the Titan of Strength, which is Atlas, which that's the one that's always carrying the big globe on his shoulders. So these 5 new characters, not including GKL, are still using beta names, and their actual names have yet to be chosen. But the 5 beta names are Frozone, Bulkhead, Gillman, Delta, and Omega. And it says that the release should be in early 2024, which, we're in 2022, and given all the delays with recent video games, while it sounds kind of a ways away, 2024 could be, a pretty fair date, especially early 2024. And maybe, given the 30th anniversary being this year, maybe we'll get a tease or some more concrete information about when the game's actually going to come out, or at least a more roundabout time when it's going to come out. But I really think this is an interesting leak, and I think that this leak, amongst all the ones we've gotten so far this year, this is the 3rd one, I like this one because I like more of this story and lore that they're trying to build, if this is true, of the game. And I know that we're kind of, expanding. This is kind of turning to like a Mortal Kombat novella or soap opera, which I like. And I just like this concept, and I really would love to see this happen. And then what's interesting about this is, given the one I talked about where the leak said that Liu Kang could be a villain, I like that idea because, you have Liu Kang in this power, set of power versus Titans. So it's gods versus Titans, which we've seen in countless iterations before, like in Hercules, the show, Xena, stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to see it all play out. And maybe even maybe this will be the time that Xena could actually be, an actual DLC, just something to think about. So what do you think about this leak? What do you think about the Krypt? What do you think about the release date? What do you think about the development timeline, the story? Let me know in the comments below. That's it for this video, guys. Enjoy that like button. If you want to see more of this one, subscribe to the channel for all Mortal Kombat 12, Mortal Kombat movie coverage, amongst other topics to talk about on the channel. And I'll see you guys next time on the Mashup.